Have you ever found yourself thinking, next time they're gonna say this, I will stare at them calmly, without any emotions, and say okay, and just walk away. But somehow it never works out. Have you ever found yourself in that situation, or in a situation similar to this one? I had, but this situation, or any other situations in which you suppress your emotion, is not an emotional intelligence. For my whole life I thought it was, but turns out it was just repression. So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is all about handling feelings, both yours and others. It's grasping why you could be cheerful one moment and irritating the next, and why your friend seemed gloomy despite insisting everything's okay. So when you are emotionally intelligent, it's easier for you to know what you want and make plans to achieve your goals. You have better understanding of what drives you. You're more likely to grasp what brings you joy and why. This means you're also more likely to identify your values and know your purpose in life. It's also easier for you to name and express your feelings and connect to people's feelings. It's easier for you to remain calm in challenging situations. For people who are emotionally intelligent, it's also easier for them to decode their own emotions because they practice understanding the meaning of any particular emotion, and where they appropriate, redirect their emotions responses to where they are more appropriate and beneficial. They are able to recognize which emotion should be encouraged and which should be recognized. It's also easier for them to reduce their own anxiety in stressful times. By understanding the causes of stress and identifying its signs, people with higher than average AE, which stands for emotional intelligence, have an excellent chance of reducing anxiety by generating alternative meanings for stressful events and taking more effective actions, including advocating for themselves. It's also easier for them to work well with others, learn from mistakes and criticism. If someone asks for criticism and doesn't fall to pieces when the feedback is negative, this points to someone with high AE. AE doesn't make someone cold or impervious to pain. Rather, it can help them to regulate their own emotions, which makes them more able to hear negative criticism and use it to improve rather than interrupt it into personal attack. It's also easier for them to be the voice of their heart and not the echo of their ego, because they're able to recognize and follow the quiet voice of their heart instead of only listening to the demanding and often wrong voice of their ego. It's easier for them to ask for help. It's easier for them to shift from making assumptions to engage in their own curiosity. They refuse to take things personally and avoid becoming stuck with a fixed mindset. They are always seeking to grow, develop, and advance. It's also easier for them to change from taking things personally and being judgmental to expressing their curiosity, compassion, and understanding. No one is totally right or wrong. Those with high AE see an opportunity for themselves to grow and evolve instead of dwelling of taking things personally. It's also easier for them to shift their focus of control because they are able to focus on what they are capable of influencing and controlling rather than wasting their time with matters that are outside of their area of control. It's easier for them to understand and relate to others. It's easier for them to make smart decisions. Increased emotional intelligence may correlate with improved critical thinking, which with emotional intelligence you can pause, reflect, and choose the best course of action, even when you're tempted to do something in the heat of the moment. This has a ripple effect in several areas. AQ may even be associated with better health. And it's also easier for them to stay strong. Life can sometimes throw a lot of things at us. Being emotionally intelligent means that you're better at catching and tossing them back. You're better able to handle stress, adapt to change, and bounce back from setbacks. Amazing list of benefits, right? I got tired of just writing it. Imagine possessing all of it. But the goal is not to possess all of these things, all these traits, because if I'm being honest with you, there are probably like one person or two people on this entire planet that possess all these qualities, if there are even, because there's something a little more to emotional intelligence, and that is 4 main components of emotional intelligence. First one is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to identify and understand your own emotions and the impact we have on others. Second one is self-regulation. Self-awareness opens the door to self-regulation, which is the ability to manage those emotions and behaviors. Once we're aware of our own emotions, we can begin to manage them and keep destructive emotions and impulses under control. Third one is social awareness. Social awareness is our ability to understand the emotions of others, and a key component of this is empathy. And fourth one is social skills. These skills, which include influence, conflict management, teamwork, and the ability to inspire others, make it possible to build and maintain healthy relationships in all parts of your life. You know what? There are probably 0.0001% of people that possess all of these things that I mentioned before and all of these categories that I mentioned before in equality. And to be honest, I really doubt they're even like 1%. So basically there's 0% of people that possess it all and that have it perfectly, because we're human beings, there's nothing perfect about us. But having this understanding about emotional intelligence and becoming emotional intelligent as good as we can is really important for our success, for our life, for our mental health even. So how to become emotional intelligent, or if I'm being correct, how to boost our emotional intelligence, because every one of us in some way is already emotionally intelligent, whether we realize it or not. First one is acknowledge your emotions as valuable, because emotional health strongly affect our rational decision-making abilities. So show genuine interest in other people's emotions and answer authentically when someone shows interest in your emotions. Second one is journal your emotions in app or on a piece of paper. It helps you to clarify your head and get a better grasp of your emotions. Third one is differentiate and analyze your emotions. So you could be like, yeah, that's great, but how do I do that? And I'm so happy you asked, even if you didn't, because I have 6 steps that will help you to differentiate and analyze your emotions. First step is just recognize what emotion you're feeling. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you jealous? Are you annoyed? Are you irritated? Just recognize what kind of emotion you're feeling. And you can even find on the internet, there's this like thing which has all the emotions. I'm gonna put it somewhere here. I don't really remember how it's called, but yeah, let's move on. Second step to do is to label your emotion. You recognize your emotion, that you are in some way happy or in some way sad or in some way frustrated. Then go to that thing that I told you about, that I put it somewhere here, and label it. Like, is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it, like, be specific. The more specific, the better. Third one is determine how strong is that emotion on a scale. It could be from 1 to 10, or it could be like intense, not intense, not intense at all. You can choose whatever you want. You have power over that. You can choose your own scale, how to do that, how to write it down, whether in a journal or an app. You have whole control over that. Fourth one is find triggers and reflect on what caused that emotion. Was it an event? Was it a person? Was it a thought? Was it a video on the internet? Be specific. Again, the more specific, the better. Fifth one is understand the impact. Consider how this emotion affects your thoughts, your behavior, and relationships. And sixth one is reflect on it. Think about past situations where you felt that same exact emotion and draw lines. What is different between that past situation and this situation? Make comparison, reflect on both of them, and understand why it triggers you. For example, what can trigger you is going on Easter or Christmas to your family once a year, and your family member keep asking you that one question that bugs you. For example, what are you working as? Or do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend yet? Or some question that irritates you, and you can reflect on that question. I mean, I think that is example very versatile, because a lot of people have very nagging family members, at least like one person from family members that keep asking you questions that you told them a million of times. Don't do that. I don't want to answer that question, like stop. But they still do that. So, you know, everyone has that. Everyone can use this example. And you can get home, take out your journal and write what are you feeling? Like anger, and then see what emotion is more likely to describe what you're feeling, because an anger is so versatile, it's so broad, you know, and just narrow it down to the emotions and feelings that this thing has of emotions. Narrow it down and then determine on what scale from 1 to 10 how strong is that emotion. Is it a 10, very strong, or is it 1, not very strong, or is it 5? For example, let's take 5. it's moderate. And then you examine triggers. And in this situation, we know what the trigger is. The trigger is that family member asking you about whether or not you have a partner yet. That is a trigger. Then understand the impact. Understand how this emotion changes your behavior, your emotions. Maybe you become more passive aggressive, maybe you become more shy, maybe you become sad, maybe just understand how it influences your emotions, your behaviors overall, and then reflect. For example, in that case, we can go back to the Christmas that was last year and this year, and the same family member asked the same question, and you had pretty similar changes in your behavior, but like a little different, and you can just examine through it and reflect on it. And let's go to the next step. First one is accept and appreciate those emotions, because emotions are neither good or bad. Fifth one is, if you need time to cool off, take it. And there is a difference between cooling off and just avoiding the situation, because avoiding is a immature way of dealing with a problem, and cooling off and then talking when you both are cooled off is a mature way. So there's difference. Just walking away doesn't mean they're cooling off by default. It means that also you're avoiding. So if you need time to cool off, take it. And I think a lot of people need time to cool off to just not to say things that you will regret later. Then sixth one is handle your emotions. It includes journaling, talk to friends and ask them how they approach the situation. Take a cool off period and, maybe meditate. Because it's so important to ask people for their perspective, because when my friends tell me a situation, for example, where they were very angry at that person, I'm just like, why didn't you just approach it that way and thought of this and that? And they're like, oh, it's so brilliant, why didn't I do that? Because seeing something from a third perspective, from someone else's perspective, is very interesting and very helpful, and usually we cannot really see that from someone else's perspective, our own situation, because we're biased and we think, yes, we are right, that person is not right, and seeing that perspective from third person is very hard, because we are biased to support our own opinion, to support our own side. So asking a person, journaling and meditating is very helpful for their own reasons. And the last one is handle emotions of other people. Just ask the person how you can support them and ask them how they can support themselves. Also, here are some consequences of a lack of emotional intelligence. Not having enough emotional intelligence can lead to misunderstanding, hurt feelings, and lonely moments. Without it, it's harder to make friends, work well with others, and even understand yourself. Everything seems to be more complex and less clear. But if that sounds like a treat to you, then just ignore everything I just said completely. Erase it from your mind. Gone. Go watch some TikTok or another video on YouTube. And if it doesn't sound to you like a treat, then congratulations, because you have a good amount of common sense. Okay, I'll see you in the next week or in a few seconds if you want to watch any of my videos. And bye, I love you. Have a good day.